Thank you very much for being here. My name is John Jacobson, and I'm running for U.S. Congress. And I'm asking for your support in that endeavor. I have been running now for a couple of months, and it's been a very joyful experience, I have to admit. It's more joyful than I thought it would be. It's a great honor to put myself forward in this position. At first, I thought I was really sticking my neck out, but instead I'm getting so much out of it that I think it's really been an exciting opportunity. I've been in Siskiyou County for 15 years. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, just 909 people. Smaller than Chico, and smaller than Redding, and smaller than Mount Shasta, even smaller than Weed, I think. And it was a labor town, this 909 people. There was a cheese factory, and that's about it. And pretty much everybody worked at it, and including my brothers for their summer jobs. And it was a labor town. Everybody was union. I think that the greatest protector and preventer of poverty in this country have been unions. I believe that. They are what builds a middle class. It's what kept us from poverty, was that it was a union job. My father was the superintendent of schools, however, and my mother the 5th grade teacher. I have 9 brothers and sisters, and they all are teachers, and they all married teachers. All my nieces and nephews are growing up and becoming teachers. In our family, it was like a disease to become a teacher. It's just something that you did. I think through my parents' example, we were taught that there was no more noble profession than to be a teacher. And I do believe that with my heart, that the greatest figures in the history of humankind, I mean, Buddha and Muhammad and Jesus Christ, if nothing else, think of one word that describes those figures in history. It's teacher. And we have some teachers here tonight, I know, and I'm really delighted to call them my peer and to be a part of that. I did my undergraduate degree at University of Wisconsin in Madison in music education, Madison, Wisconsin, and I did my master's at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I spent a bunch of years working for Walt Disney Productions, first as a singer and a dancer, and then later as a show director and a writer, kind of all over in Florida and in Tokyo for a year, Japan. I can sing all the Disney songs in Japanese, which is, I can't order lunch, but I can sing zippity doo dah, zippity yay, tote mo suteki na hida. Anyways, I left Disney after a while and moved to New York City and was still working for Disney at the time, doing shows like at Radio City Music Hall or extravaganzas, things like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, half times of football games, that kind of thing. My job was to work with the masses, big groups of people, and try to get them all working together. That was my profession. I've always believed in service. Service was a part of growing up. Through my parents' example, I think, and my friend Marion Wright Edelman, who's the founder and director of the Children's Defense Fund, always says, service is the rent you pay for a living. I believe that. And public service was a huge part of my family's upbringing, and I've always believed in that too. So 20 years ago, when I was looking for a way to use my experience and professional experience and my own person to start to do something in the service world, I started a nonprofit company called America Sings. And the idea was to use kids who were involved in the arts, particularly in music, and empower them to use their interest in the arts to help out less fortunate people. So I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, so I thought my dream was to have maybe 50 different choirs come together at the base of the Washington Monument, maybe 1,000 kids, and they would sing for each other, and afterwards we would do service projects, like make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for kids that were homeless, and we would make what we call kits for kids, which was shampoo and toothpaste and hairbrushes and toys and things in little packages, and we would take them out to homeless shelters. You know, it was a way of 1,000 kids helping out 1,000 less fortunate kids. And the very first year, 450 choirs and 15,000 kids showed up. It seemed like a mandate that said to me that was a good idea. Well, now it's 20 years later. And I've had the opportunity to teach all over the world. I've taught in Hong Kong and Bangkok and Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, South America, North America, Canada, all over Europe. I've had the opportunity to have these incredible experiences as a music educator. Now it's 20 years later. I feel qualified to do public service at a different level or in a different place, in a different capacity than I did 20 years ago. Now I feel the best way I could possibly do public service would be to be your representative to the United States Congress. I think it's logical. This is what I've done with my life, is try to get people working in collaboration. Kids, teachers, whoever it is, working together. I think right now our country in the last 7 to 10 years, particularly in the last 7 years, has been torn apart and moving in opposite directions. We have the very rich and the very poor, and we're losing everything in between. We have the very right and the very left, and we're losing everything in between. My job for my whole life has been to bring people together. And so, that being said, I'm running with a campaign that is kid-oriented. And that's what I want to do as a representative to the United States Congress, is try to get out there and say, folks, we have a lot of things that we can agree upon. There's a lot of gray in the world. And as a teacher and somebody who spent my whole life working with kids, of course, my motto is sort of, it's the kids, stupid, is a motto I feel that because I think that if all of us care about our children, we all do. Rich, poor, black, white, quick, slow. Everybody cares about their kids. Even other species care about their babies. Everybody does. And I think that if we all stepped back and said, let's think about the problems that are really facing our district and our country right now. Things like healthcare, the economy, jobs, global warming, the environment, almost anything you can think of. How are we going to address these problems? Well, I believe that if we all stepped back and said, well, what is going to be the best thing that we could possibly do for these problems to address them that is going to most positively affect the 25% of our population who is 100% of our future? If we all stood back and said, well, what should we do with this about global warming? Well, the decisions that we make, how is it going to affect our children? What are we going to do about education? What are we going to do about healthcare? What are we going to do about the war in Iraq? Well, step back and think. How is it going to affect our children? I think right, left, rich, poor, black, white, all of us could find a lot of common ground. And on that common ground, we could work together to move this country forward in a positive way. This is what I've done my whole life, and this is what I want to do in Congress.